Hello and welcome to the Rainy Night Listens podcast. I'm Hailey.
And I'm Wyatt, and this is the podcast that you save for a rainy night instead of a rainy day.
Alrighty. Today we're going to be talking about the Salem Witch Trials. You have heard of these ones at least, right?
Everybody know about them Salem Witch Trials.
Alright, perfect.
I don't know what happened. I know it wasn't good.
No.
But
in
that's
fact,
about all I know.
It was actually terrible what happened.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, hey, you're going to hear all about it today though. So, lucky
I'm glad.
you.
I'm so glad. I'm sure I will walk out of this feeling better and not worse at all.
Yeah, your spirit will be uplifted and not downdropped.
Downdropped. Yeah, that's fair.
I think when looking at the Salem Witch Trials, it is important to have an idea of what was going on leading up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it helped me understand better why something like this would even happen in the first place. And so we're going to start by kind of going over kind of like the background of everything that was happening.
That like led up to it?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, the Salem Witch Trials were not even close to being the first time that widespread fear and panic in regard to witches living amongst common townspeople took place. Witch hunts have actually been occurring in Europe from around the 1400s up through the 1600s.
Okay.
One example of these witch hunts include the Valais Witch Trials that happened in an area that is now part of Switzerland. And these started in 1428 and lasted between 6 to 8 years. These witch trials are actually considered the first of many more hunts that would happen in Europe. During these trials, the number of victims accused of being witches and subsequently killed is estimated to be in the hundreds.
Oh my gosh. That's ridiculous.
Another example, the witch trials of Trier took place in the Diocese of Trier, which was located in modern-day Germany. These occurred between 1581 and 1593, and approximately 368 people were executed after being accused of being witches. And
holy crap. That's so many.
Dude, it's horrible, right? The number during this particular witch hunt, though, may actually be even higher because no one was keeping track of the accusations and deaths that were happening in the surrounding areas. So, there were 368 people executed just within Trier.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And it was
gross.
a mixture of men and women, too, that were being executed. Mm-hmm. I think that once you get a little bit, further into it, it becomes pretty heavily women that were being executed for it, but in the early ones it was a pretty good mixture of men and women that were being accused.
Gotcha. I feel like that's not really explained ever. I always feel like when they talk about witch trials, it was usually always ever women when people talk about it, so it's weird to... It makes me feel a little bit better, but also it's still really bad.
Yeah, it's still terrible. But yeah, so as it goes on, it kind of starts leaning more heavily towards it being women that were being tried. And yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
I do have a side note that has to do with the witch trials, but also was just super interesting that I want to go off on for a minute. Because I know that this is all supposed to be about the Salem Witch Trials, but there was a guy during the witch trials of Trier who was a Roman Catholic priest named Cornelius Lozaeus Calidius.
That's made up.
Right? The names were so intense.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a title. It wasn't even a name.
Yeah. So he moved to Trier, and he held a Doctor of Theology degree and was a professor of theology at the University of Mainz. He began writing to officials fighting against the witch hunts that were taking place.
Oh, he was against the witch hunts?
Yeah.
Well, now I feel bad about saying his name is made up.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, my bad.
Just feel bad over there. That's what you get.
I won't say a single thing for the rest of
Good,
this.
yeah. Just kidding. Please don't do that.
This is on you now. I'm actually leaving.
So he began writing to officials, arguing and fighting against the witch hunts that were taking place. And after nothing came of his writings that he was doing, he actually wrote a full manuscript that was arguing that the witch hunt should not be happening and was questioning the beliefs of the people who were participating in the hunts.
Wow, he was challenging, like, their whole belief system?
Yeah.
That's nuts.
So, as I'm sure you can guess, this was not taken very well.
I'm sure he was supposedly a witch by the end of this story.
Surprisingly not, but he did get in a lot of trouble. So, his manuscript was seized, and he was sent to prison. And while there, he was forced to recant everything he had written about in his manuscript. And a quote from his recantation is as follows. In the first place, I revoke, condemn, reject, and censure the idea which, both in words and writing, I have often and before many persons asserted, and which I wish to be the head and front of this my disputation, that the things which are written about the bodily transportation or translation of witches, male and female, are altogether fanciful and must be reckoned the empty superstition. And this I recant, both because it smacks of rank heresy, and because this opinion partakes of sedition, and hence savors of the crime of treason.
Wow. That's crazy. That's nuts. Like
yeah.
He got his point across and he did it as hard as possible. Like,
it goes on to say that, so it like listed a whole bunch of specific things that he was recanting that he had said, which include that no compact does or can exist between the devil and a human being, that devils do not assume bodies, that there is no sexual intercourse between the devil and human beings. And then he said, I submit myself also to arbitrary correction, whether by the Archbishop of Trier or by any other magistrates under whom it may befall me to dwell, and who may he certified of my relapse and of my broken faith, that they may punish me according to my deserts in honor and reputation, property and person.
What the heck?
So
it's like, that's nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of sounds like this dude had a confession and recantation written for him, and then he was just forced to sign it.
Yeah.
But he ended up passing away from the plague a few years later, but during the last years of his life, he was imprisoned multiple times for falling back into his old ways, and one of the people who was pushing for him to be imprisoned actually said that he wished he could have executed him before the plague took him. So, like, he was hated for...
Yeah. Dude had his beliefs, and he was spreading them.
Yeah.
You gotta respect him.
Interestingly, they thought his manuscript had been lost during the Inquisition, but it was actually discovered 300 years later in 1886 in the Jesuit Library of Trier. The front title page had been ripped off and there was no author listed on the manuscript, but historians were able to look at it and figure out that it was actually his manuscript that he had written.
They tried, like, discrediting him and, like, removing him from...
Well, I took that as, like, that means there were people who were on his side who were like, hey, this is important that this doesn't get destroyed.
This stays around, so we'll take his name off of it.
Yeah, like, that's just what I think, but that they took off the title page and his name so that it didn't get destroyed.
That's fair.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
But this actually leads into the next topic that fed into the Salem Witch Trials, which is the lack of separation of church and state. So on a large scale, even though it may sound ironic because now America claims to have like that separation of church and state, that wasn't actually the case when the colonies were formed. Each colony was basically its own, for lack of a better term, country, in the sense that they were built and settled by individual groups of people, and oftentimes these groups were religious fanatics or religious dissenters who were hoping to set up a place where their own religion would be the law.
Wow. That's nutty.
Yeah, super interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so each colony had their own charter that was issued to them from the king. The charters gave the colonies the right to exist and to be free from outside involvement from the king as long as they met specific requirements. In 1684 in Massachusetts, though, where the Salem Witch Trials took place, the charter was revoked, which created a situation in which the laws were left up to the people and had even less oversight than they already did.
Uh-huh.
And this caused the courts to not function properly and allowed them the quote-unquote freedom to make unusual decisions when it came to accusations and trials.
Just like the Salem Witch Trials. Like, it was... Okay.
And so a new charter wasn't issued until October of 1691, but it didn't reach Boston until January of 1692. The Salem Witch Trials started taking place in March of 1692, but the new governor, William Phips, wasn't signed in under this new charter until May of 1692.
Oh, man, of course.
And so on May 27th, he commissioned a special court of oyer and terminer, which means like a special court, and oyer means to hear, and terminer means to determine or decide.
Okay.
He commissioned this special court because of the immense number of people that were filling their jails from these witch trials that were taking place already. But the issue with this was that it allowed things like the use of spectral evidence to be used. So...
Spectral evidence.
Yeah, so things like dreams, visions, things that are supernatural, that can't be proven, those were able to be used as evidence against the accused. And it also didn't allow defense lawyers for the accused. It didn't call for cross-examination of those who were doing the accusing. And it allowed the court to pressure the accused into confessing by promising a lesser sentence.
It's so stupid. It was just, hey, we're gonna win this whole thing, and you have no say, no choice, no nothing in this matter whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
So then, on a smaller scale, there were already tensions between Salem Village and Salem Town. So Salem Village is your blue dot on this map, and Salem Town is the red dot. Salem Town was a more wealthy port town, and Salem Village was a poorer farming community. Today, Salem Town is still called Salem, but Salem Village is now known as Danvers, Massachusetts. But these two neighboring towns commonly had disputes over property lines and grazing rights, amongst a myriad of other things.
Yeah.
And so there were already like local tensions within these two areas as well.
Yeah.
That then fed into the witch trials, because then you have people from like the more wealthy families within Salem Town accusing the poorer people who owned a whole bunch of land in Salem
of being
Village,
witches.
Because then once those people were put to death,
they could just seize the land.
Could buy up all of the land and just expand their wealth. Like, there were so many things that like fed into everything that had happened. It's crazy.
It's insane.
So Salem Village was actually attempting to completely separate from Salem Town. And so in 1672, they voted to have their own minister that was separate from Salem Town's. And between 1673 and 1689, they went through 4 ministers. All of them because they couldn't afford to pay them like the wage that they were promised and all of this stuff. So the 4th minister that they landed on actually contributed to splitting the community within Salem Village itself, because he was greedy, and so he would dispute his compensation all the time and keep on asking for like ownership of more things. and people who disagreed weren't treated very well.
Yeah.
And he would, like, publicly punish upstanding members of their community and congregation over super small things, but he would, like, make a public spectacle of it. And he was actually pushing his congregation to hunt for witches and demons and things like that.
That's so stupid. Like, look at that face. You already know.
Yeah.
You already know what kind of man he is. Reverend Samuel.
This guy.
Harris.
So, on that exciting note, let's get into the events of the Salem Witch Trials. Just kidding, it's Hagen's historical word of the day. I got you good.
Hagen, 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 Hagen.
Towards.
Ooh.
Alright, you heard it here.
Towards. Now you know that.
No. 2 wards.
2 wards.
Nope, just 1.
So, the story begins with none other than Reverend Samuel Parris's daughter and niece,
Betty and Abigail.
In Salem Village in February of 1692, Betty Parris, who was 9 years old, and Abigail Williams, who was her 11-year-old cousin, began behaving strangely. They were reported as having fits where they would throw things, they would scream, make strange noises, contort their bodies in strange ways, and would crawl around and hide under furniture.
Oh, so just like being like young girls, basically? Like.
Yeah, just being, as all kids do.
Okay, contorting is a bit out there, but like little kids are known to, have fits and, mess around the house. Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
And so
they're probably witches.
Yeah, they were the witches. That's the end of the story. But yeah, so they were just behaving very erratically, and it was causing a big issue within the community.
Gotcha.
When their fits weren't taking place, they would complain about being pinched or feeling as though they were being pricked with pins. The girls were taken to a doctor where they were examined. However, there was no evidence of any physical issue that could be causing the girls to behave in such a way. Due to the lack of physical evidence, the fits were then determined to be caused by bewitchment.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yep. Soon, other girls within the village who were close with Betty Parris and Abigail Williams began behaving similarly. These girls were Ann Putnam Jr., who was 12, Elizabeth Hubbard, who was 17, Mercy Lewis, who was 19, Mary Walcott, who was 17, and Mary Warren, who was 20.
All the way up to 20.
Yep. The girls were all having behavioral issues and would make loud outbursts in the middle of their church meetings. And so it got to the point where Reverend Samuel Parris began pressing his daughter and niece, trying to figure out who had bewitched them and caused all of this pain and torment to start. The girls then made the first official accusations that would start the witch hunts. They named Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba as the witches that were afflicting them. Sarah Good was a 38-year-old homeless woman in Salem Village who, for a short period of time, had been given charity by the Parris family, but she reportedly was ungrateful for it. She was perceived by the community as being unpleasant and was believed to be a challenger to Puritan values. When asked why she never attended church, though, she said it was because she didn't have the proper attire for services. I couldn't find photos that were, linked to Sarah Osborne, and so that's why I don't have, a picture for her specifically.
Is that really the description of Tituba? Was she... So she was, Sorry, you probably have information on her.
Oh, no, you're good. So... Yeah, so Tituba was accused of being a witch. They aren't sure what her age was, but they estimated her to be either in her late teens or early 20s, which kind of confused me because I feel like they always portray her as, this old, creepy lady.
That's what I was going to say, is that that picture just seems out of place for the story. That's all I'm saying. That's all I was trying to get at. It's just,
but
look at them. They're wearing, pilgrim outfits.
But she was a slave that was owned by the Paris family.
Oh.
And it is not clear exactly how the Paris family gained ownership of her. It is speculated that she came from Barbados, but other reports also claim that she came from Africa. So it's kind of there's really not much known as far as I could find about her past.
Yeah, I'm sure they don't carry that information over, sadly, when they...
Yeah. So either way, this poor woman was a slave that ended up in frickin' Salem, Massachusetts at this time.
The one place you didn't... Yeah.
Yeah. She was married to a man that they called John Indian.
Oh!
Yeah, because,
What a very, descriptive name.
Yeah. Dude, it's so frustrating. But it is theorized that Tituba was telling the two girls about Haitian voodoo and witchcraft prior to her being accused by them. And then back to Sarah Osborne. She was a 49-year-old outcast in Salem Village because she hired and then married an indentured immigrant after her husband passed away, which was seen as incredibly unusual. And then she went against her late husband's will and took control over their 150-acre farm instead of giving it to her two sons, which caused them to have a lot of legal troubles with one another. The father of Ann Putnam Jr. was actually involved in the legal proceedings and, as a wealthy landowner himself, had an interest in the land that they owned.
Oh, I'm sure.
But the three women were arrested and sent to prison in Boston on March 7th, 1692, which I will say, I didn't realize that they were being, housed in different jails.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I thought it all went down within, the...
Salem.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the people who were being accused of being witches were, because, the jails were filling up, or they just, didn't have room, all sorts of stuff, but... They would actually ship them to Boston, and then there were a couple of, other towns that were close by to Salem that they would, send them to, and so whenever the trials were taking place, they were having to,
bring them back? Move
everyone all over the place, move people to Boston so that they could have their trials. They were moving them back to Salem so that they could have their trials.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that it actually was going on, outside of Salem, too.
Yeah, me neither. I thought it was, all self-contained. I didn't realize they were, everything was around.
Yeah.
Everything around them was included.
Yeah, but I feel like it kind of shows how little oversight there was to everything, that this wasn't strictly just in Salem that these were happening.
Yeah.
They were being shipped all over the place, and no one questioned it. No one was hey, it's weird that this is happening.
This is what what is it called? Unsupervised power looks like. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So Sarah Osborne actually passed away due to the conditions of the jail, but proclaimed her innocence the entire time that she was imprisoned.
Which Sarah?
Sarah Osborne.
Oh, okay.
Tituba confessed to being a witch after being beaten by Reverend Samuel Parris and being pressured into it.
Mm.
She told the court stories about black dogs, rats, hogs, and she also stated that a tall man that was dressed in all black came to her and demanded that she write her name in his great book. When she wrote her name, she claims that she also saw the names of Sarah Osborne, Sarah Good, and others that lived within Salem, which then created much more hysteria within the city because all of a sudden there's more witches amongst them that they don't even know who they are yet. She used her confession to put off her trial and punishment, and she ended up spending a total of 13 months in jail in Boston. In April of 1963, she was sold by Reverend Samuel Parris to an unknown person, and then she kind of just disappears from the historical record after that.
Man, she got out.
Yeah, which
is really messed up. She threw other people under the bus.
But also, like, it is messed up, but if she was, like, that young, too, and was a slave, like, I'm sure she knew that whatever
she wasn't going to
was going to happen,
she
was, it was going to be terrible no matter what happened. And so, like, if it kept him from beating her and, like, doing terrible things, like, I'm not okaying it, but I can see why it happened.
Self-preservation.
Yeah.
Like it. One of the few ways she could have survived what happened was doing what she did. It's not what she did wasn't great, but she was able to save herself from this, because I'm sure she would have been beaten to death or burned at some point had she not did what she did.
Yeah. Interestingly, so in the witch trials in Europe, there were people who were, like, burned at the stake, but Salem actually never burned anyone.
Really?
Yeah, they were all
hung.
Yeah, which I also learned that it's hanged.
Hanged?
Because it bothers me to say it, but I guess it's like the proper way to say it. But and so I had to, like, specifically make sure that I wrote hanged in here so that I didn't use the wrong word.
That's fair.
But yeah, super interesting, right?
That is interesting. So I heard I mean, just when it talks about, like, witches and stuff, I've heard of them, like, sinking them in rivers, burning them, like, all that. I didn't know they were just hanged.
Yeah, and so, like,
Salem.
because that stuff was happening in Europe during their witch trials, but a lot of, so outside of, like, the spectral evidence for the Salem witch trials, the physical evidence that they would use is they would search, like, the women's bodies for the witch's teat, is what they called it, because they believed it was, like, where the witch's familiar would go and drink blood from the ladies. And so if they had, like, a weird skin tag or a weird mole or anything, that was used as evidence that, no, that's the witch's teat. That proves that she's a witch. Like, they were using stuff like that to say that...
That's ridiculous. Just anything that could be made up evidence was made up evidence.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So, Sarah Good was tried for witchcraft on March 25th. When she was brought into the courtroom, the girls that had accused her began rocking back and forth and moaning as though her presence was causing them troubles. She was accused of rejecting puritanical expectations of self-control and discipline. She was also accused of choosing to torment children rather than lead them down the path of salvation. While her trial was going on, one of the girls fell into a fit, and once it was over, she produced a portion of a broken knife and claimed that Sarah had attempted to attack her. So, in the courtroom.
There in the courtroom.
Yep.
She tried to attack her in the courtroom.
Yep.
Oh.
Because, spectral evidence was
a thing
being used.
Yeah.
And so her specter was attacking her with this knife, apparently. But a townsman actually stood up and claimed that the knife piece she was holding had actually broken off of his knife the day before, and that the young girl was there when it happened, so she must have just picked up the piece of the knife. So the judge scolded the girl, but said that she had only exaggerated what had happened just then, and that she was still attacked by Sarah in that moment. Sarah denied being a witch and was allowed to attempt to defend herself in front of 12 jurors in Salem. But remember, they weren't allowed defense lawyers, they weren't allowed anything, so it's just their word against...
the word of the whole room, basically.
And she was found guilty. While awaiting her execution, she actually gave birth in her cell to a little girl she named Mercy, and then her 4-year-old daughter, Dorothy Good, was thrown into jail with her as well after being accused of being a witch. Her newborn passed away from the conditions within the cell, and then Sarah Good was hanged on July 19th.
That's terrible.
It's so freaking awful. So, while these 3 women were being tried in March, another round of women were accused of being witches. These women were Martha Corey, Dorothy Good, and Rebecca Nurse. Martha Corey was a 72-year-old who was married to Giles Corey, who would also eventually be accused of being a witch. She had a biracial child out of wedlock prior to this, which was heavily frowned upon and was actually used against her because people claimed that she had lived a sinful and shameful life. While living in Salem, Martha was a dedicated churchgoer. However, she did not support the witch hunts that were taking place, and she did not believe that witches even existed. And she would speak outwardly about this and denounced the judges that were involved in the cases that were happening. And then shortly after this, Ann Putnam Jr. and Mercy Lewis accused her of being a witch. While on trial, she spoke honestly about herself being innocent and believed that she would be found innocent and would be let go. She also asked the judge not to pay attention to the rantings of hysterical children, which after she started saying things like that, the girls who had accused her began mimicking her movements, pretending as though they were actually being controlled by her. So whatever she would do, the girls would start doing the same things. One of the girls actually called out that there was a man whispering in Martha's ear during the trial and claimed that it was Satan himself. And so all of these actions led to Martha being found guilty, and she was hanged on September 22nd. Dorothy Good was the 4-year-old daughter of Sarah Good. She was accused of being a witch by Mary Walcott and Ann Putnam Jr., who claimed that she was deranged and would bite them. Dorothy, again, the 4-year-old, was brought in and questioned by the magistrates, and she confessed to being a witch and said she saw her mother consorting with the devil. She was sent to jail on March 24th, where again, she had to watch her mother give birth in a cell. She watched her infant sister pass away in the cell with them, and then she watched her mother be taken away to be hanged for being a witch. A quote from one of her examinations that had been conducted on her reads, "The magistrates and ministers also did inform me that they apprehended a child of Sarah G. and examined it, being between 4 and 5 years of age, and as to matter of fact they did unanimously affirm that when this child did but cast its eye upon the afflicted persons, they were tormented, and they held her head, and yet so many as her eye could fix upon were afflicted." So this 4-year-old girl would look at the people who accused her, like those two girls, and they'd be like, oh no. And everyone who she would look at afterwards would act like they were being tormented and hurt by her gaze hitting them.
That's crazy.
Dude, it's a freaking joke. I get so mad about this because, like, come on, people. But I digress, I guess. In December of 1692, so remember, she went to prison in March. In December of that year, her father posted her bail, which she turned 5 while she was in jail.
Oh.
So she was 5 at that point, and she was said to be severely psychologically disturbed after that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
She didn't really get it,
Mm-hmm. So in 1708, she was moved from home to home where she worked as a servant for people and things like that. But she had multiple children out of wedlock, and then she was sent to like workhouses where she had children out of wedlock. And then she disappeared from historical records in 1738. But apparently in 1761, there was a homeless woman that had been found who had passed away in a bog meadow in Connecticut. And it's theorized that it might have been her because the woman was around the same age that she would have been at that time and was homeless like she had been, but it was never confirmed.
Gotcha.
Dude, it's just terrible because, like, there were so many other people who fell victim to this who
did nothing.
Yeah, they didn't get hanged, like, but yet their lives were still ruined because of it. Like, it's so horrible.
Which, I guess we should probably say this. Children born out of wedlock is, like, unmarried, right? Like, their parents are unmarried, which means...
So, they were born to parents who weren't married, and that was like a
very
huge
frowned upon
no-no.
back then.
Like super sinful. And then at that point in time, it being like a biracial child on top of it, again, at that point in time, it was a huge no-no, huge issue. Like it was just so bad. But yeah, thank you. I didn't think about.
I just figured we'd
expanding
specify
on that, so
because
thank you.
I feel like it's not a term that's used at all anymore.
Yeah.
Born out of wedlock, so I figured we'd cover that.
Thank you. So Rebecca Nurse was a 71-year-old that was a very well-known and well-respected member of the community. She was accused by two men, Edward and John Putnam, who were related to Ann Putnam, the girl who has been accusing people, and they were also very wealthy landowners. Those two accused her, and she was arrested on March 23rd. When she heard she was being accused, she was quoted as saying, "I am as innocent as the child unborn, but surely what sin hath God found out in me unrepented of, that he should lay such an affliction on me in my old age?" There was public outcry when she was arrested, as she was seen as such a benevolent person. Again, just a super upstanding member of the community. There were 39 prominent members of the society that signed a petition on her behalf. On June 30th, her trials began, and many members of the community and family members testified in her defense. However, during the trials, her accusers would begin having fits and claim that she was doing it to them, and so it was kind of going back and forth.
Spectral evidence.
Yep.
So stupid.
But she was actually found innocent and was released.
Wow. Yeah, almost like, it looks like there's the word but is sitting behind those lips. Yeah.
The people who were claiming to be afflicted by her got angry with this and went to the judge, so the judge reopened the case.
Oh.
And the jury asked her a question, and because she was old and hard of hearing, she misspoke, and then was found guilty and was hanged on July 19th.
That's really great.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so great.
So after this, her sister, Sarah Cloyce, and a woman named Elizabeth Proctor were arrested in April after being accused. During their trials, John Proctor was arrested for objecting to his wife's charges. And then soon after that, Abigail Hobbs, Deliverance Hobbs, Bridget Bishop, and Mary Warren were all arrested and examined. Giles Corey, the husband of Martha Corey, was arrested and pressed to death in September over the course of 2 days because he refused to plead either guilty or innocent. And on the second day, they asked him what his plea was, and all he said to them, and these were his last words, was, "More weight."
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I guess they took his wife, didn't they, by then?
Yeah,
so I guess
so Martha
he was probably
Corey,
just done with them.
Yeah. Let's see. Martha Corey ended up being hung a few days after he was pressed to death.
Oh.
So she had already been found guilty
okay.
of it and everything. And so he fought against it, and then they accused him, and then he refused to enter a plea one way or the other. So then they brought back this wonderful form of torture.
Yeah,
and used it on him to try to force him to plead either guilty or innocent, and he refused.
I'm just saying, this is the kind of thing you'd undust purely for witch trials. This would be connected directly to mass hysteria. Is this specifically
right?
Like that picture is ridiculous.
It's horrible, and it took 2 days.
Yeah, that's
like it's
stupid.
So gross. But whenever I was looking into this, I read that I guess people who would, like, plead guilty would lose their property rights.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And so, like, their families, like, if it was a dude, like, their families would lose rights to their property, and so they would lose everything. And so people think that that might have been why he refused to enter it, because I don't think that that was, like, the law here, but I think that they were saying it was, like, the law over in Europe before. And so people think that that's why he refused to plead either way.
It's because they were trying to steal his land the whole time.
Is because he didn't want his kids, because his wife got hanged after that, but he didn't want his kids to have everything taken away from him because he pled guilty.
Gotcha. That makes sense. It just boils down to money and power at the end of it. Like,
it's
ooh,
horrible.
I can get more land out of this if my daughter fakes being possessed by a witch.
Yeah. Like, I saw something that said, like, 60-something% of the accusations came from, like, people who were either part of or were allies to the Putnam family, who were the wealthy landowners who were trying to buy up all of the land as this was happening. And so, kind of interesting, if you ask me.
Yeah, a little convenient.
Yeah, but his last words were more weight.
Yeah, that's nuts. He was not having it.
So
Like,
horrible.
well, just kill me. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. So more and more people continued to be accused and tried until October of 1692, when Governor Phipps's wife, the guy who got signed in and then created, like, the special court system and everything that we had talked about earlier. These continued until his wife was accused of being a witch. And then all of a sudden, there was a stop put on the accusations that were taking place. So no one else could be accused of being a witch. The trials continued on into 1693, but they were of those who were accused prior to the stop order. And the trials finally ended in April of 1693.
That's crazy still.
Yeah.
Even still, that's ridiculous. It's like, oh, well, some rich dude's wife was supposedly accused of being a witch. Well,
suddenly
witches aren't
there's
real.
a stop to, like, come on, guys, get it together.
Yeah, come on. I'm rich, okay? What are you doing?
But overall, over 200 people were accused, 19 people were hanged, one person was pressed to death, and many passed away in jail.
Mad respect to Giles Corey for being the one guy who was pressed to death during the witch trials and saying more weight in his final moments. It's nuts.
It's insane. But many passed away in jail while awaiting their trials because of how horrid the conditions were.
I doubt they fed them.
Yeah. So even though the Salem Witch Trials had ended, the accused continued to suffer afterwards because their reputations had been so badly damaged.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the families of those who were put to death had to live the rest of their lives without their wives, husbands, mothers, fathers, siblings.
Everything.
Yeah. And so it caused, like, a lasting impact that was super unfortunate and sad, and just came about because of a mass hysteria that broke out.
It's ridiculous.
Honestly, we could probably do a multiple-hour episode that goes over the stories of everyone that was affected by the Salem Witch Trials.
Yeah.
Like, I covered, like, 6, and even that, it really wasn't close to all of the information that there is about each of them. And so, if anyone's interested, like, there's tons of information about each of the individuals that were part of the Salem Witch Trials. And if maybe at some point in the future, if people are interested in this, we could probably do a super deep dive on it.
Yeah.
But it's going to be like a crazy long one, but we're happy to do it if people are interested.
If people want to see it, say it in the leave a comment or something.
Yeah.
We have TikTok and Instagram, like an account on both, so you don't have to leave the thing here if you don't want to. Just leave it somewhere. I'm sure we'd be more than willing.
But yeah, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think they just shouldn't have been witches. I'm just kidding. Oh. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, I think that's incredibly messed up, and I knew it was. I just hate it to the point where people were telling their daughters to act out because they wanted someone to die and get their money or land out of it.
Yeah.
It always boils down to money, and it's so depressing.
Dude, every time. I didn't know anything about, like, the backgrounds and stuff leading up to the Salem Witch Trials. I found that super interesting whenever I was researching it, because it really was like a perfect storm of
everything lining up to where they could govern themselves and make their own decisions.
Like, it was crazy.
That is crazy. Like, hey, you're on trial, but, like, you can't... This is literally... We're here to make fun of you for an hour and call you a witch and make crap up because you're not going to get to defend yourself.
Well, and then if they confessed, they wouldn't be hanged. If they confessed and started accusing other people, they weren't punished for it. And so it led to, like,
it just, like, spiderwebbed into screwing way too many people over.
Where then the people who said, no, I'm innocent, and refused to say that they were witches, they ended up being put to death for it, while other people were being, like feeding into it even more. Which, like, it's hard to say what anyone would do in that situation whenever you're being faced with death or something
the rest
else,
of your life being ruined.
Still, like, it's just such a terrible thing that happened.
Yeah. It's just, like, wouldn't it have, like, ever crossed their minds that, like, if, the supposed witch pled guilty and exposed other witches, but the supposed enchantments they were putting on the people in the courtroom just stopped happening.
Yeah.
Like, if you're walking around getting insulted by an entire town of people talking about how you should die and that you're talking to the devil, if you actually were able to place, like, hexes or curses on people, you think you just walk around and take that?
Yeah.
You think that
that's fair.
Reverend Dickhead would have been alive for that long if he was just, like... It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was just letting witches walk if they were telling who other witches were. It's like, that's not how it works.
Dude, it's so insane. Like, it's so ridiculous. Sad.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. But let us know what you guys think. And we can be found in a few different spots if you guys are interested in giving us a follow or a subscribe.
Yeah.
We'll be found on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram.
No matter where, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah. But thank you guys, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.